All right, everybody, the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. We have back on the show, welcome back, Marko Gojanovic. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good. So last time we had you on with your partner, Reid Heidenry. You guys are both with One Sotheby's in Miami, Florida. You partnered in the last, like just a little over a year, and you're doing well into the $250 million annually. And behind you is the development that you guys are actually launching right now. And
Yep.
so I wanted to bring you back, and everybody else wanted you to come back, each of you, and hear a little bit from you, like your story one on one. So where do we start, Marko? What should we talk about first? Remind everybody of how you
Uh,
grew up, how you got into this.
yeah. So, quick little background. I was born in Croatia. My family moved to the States when I was 2 years old. Grew up in California, moved to Massachusetts, went to college in South Carolina. I played tennis growing up. I had a full scholarship to Clemson University. I was the captain of my team. Graduated in sports marketing. Tried to play professional tennis, moved to Florida, had a coach here. If you want to play pro tennis, you got to be in a good warm climate as Florida, California, Texas. Came down here, had a lot of wrist problems, 2 wrist surgeries, and had to give it up at like 24 years old. Had like a couple ATP points in doubles. Um, but
Wow.
life goes on and you got to make new moves. And then I got into coaching tennis. I was looking for, jobs and never really having job experience or business experience. Then, figuring things out, coaching a little bit. Got into modeling down here by kind of chance because my roommate at the time was a tennis player, model. So I kind of got thrown into that world, and I was very fascinated with South Beach. It was just like such a cool, vibrant city. I instantly fell in love with it. And then that kind of led me into getting into nightlife, hospitality. Started hosting, throwing parties, and that led to partnerships and owning a nightclub, being a partner in 2 nightclubs, and then opening a restaurant.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
how old were you when you got into so you were from, I mean, well, how old were you when you started opening restaurants and nightclubs?
Um, I became a partner in my first nightclub probably at 33 years old. I started the nightlife business like around 27. So it was like 5 years of, hosting and throwing parties at all hotels, nightclubs, kind of restaurants. Started an entertainment company with my partner. So we were doing, big scale events. We started a company called Model Volleyball, which is a really cool volleyball event with all the modeling agencies. We were throwing good Super Bowl parties, Art Basel parties, Fashion Week parties, traveling around to Ibiza, Cannes Film Festival, New York Fashion Week, doing things in LA. So it was quite fun for sure.
I mean, there's like, we need like a 5 volume series on
Yeah.
that life story. And that's not even in that much. Like, how many lifetimes is that? So, born in Croatia, came here. So there's a background already to come in and see opportunity where others don't.
Yep.
And then you guys landed first in, was it California?
Yeah, California from like 2 to 8, and then Massachusetts 8 till 18. Then I went to Clemson University, and then kind of came to the South Florida area when I was 22, 23.
And so then you're an athlete.
Yep.
And I mean, there goes the discipline. And then it's interesting because you're in coaching, which is kind of entrepreneurial, but it's not really like business. So
Yep.
then you get into modeling, and then that kind of segues you into being a bit true business, like a business owner, and
Yep.
and being a part of and being in hospitality, which it's like marketing, sports for the diligence,
Yep.
modeling and marketing for the marketing and real estate, and hospitality. That's a big part of it. I find everybody that comes in this business out of hospitality are like some of the biggest killers in this business.
Yep.
And out of hospitality, you segued into real estate from there. Or no,
Yep.
there was a business opportunity, wasn't there first?
Well, I was always I kind of really started learning business through hospitality because of such the interesting people we meet every day. I mean, you're constantly around high profile people, high net worth, big time CEOs, celebrities. So you kind of just build your relationships, and then you start learning about, what these other people are doing. And then you try to figure out ways that you can maybe like help them out or introduce them to someone, or organically, get intertwined, and you just start learning and opportunities come. I had an opportunity with a tech company that we kind of built from the ground up, to raising a lot of money and, growing a pretty cool business. And then I moved out to LA for it. And then I really was like, okay, cool. I can use all my connections in business, put things together, help raise some capital. And I kind of fell in love with the business side. And then, yeah, I was always looking for opportunities. I felt like my network was my biggest strength, growing up. Most people in hospitality have access to a lot of people and meet a lot of people. You're always entertaining, you're always taking care of people. So, you meet awesome people, and it's just really how to leverage that, and work your way out of the business, because it's a young man's game, most people.
And so you were in South Florida playing tennis. Now, then you go to LA and for a tech business, but then you make your way back to Miami, back to South Florida.
Yep.
And then you break into real estate. So how did all that transpire? In other words, how and why did you break into the scope of luxury real estate as you have now? And by the way, you are killing it within just a little over a year.
Yeah. 2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay, 2 years.
I don't know. The company in LA didn't go necessarily as planned, and I decided I want to move back to Miami and get another fresh start. I really missed Miami. I had a lot of friends here. I felt like, this was my place. I like the weather more. I like just the environment, the energy. So I came back here, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was kind of broke at the time. The project didn't really work out. I didn't really save much money at the time, and I had to figure things out. But it's kind of hard to do really anything venture when you have like no funds really. You have to make money. So I was looking back into hospitality projects, and I was trying to figure out what to do. And then my good friends, Chris Picello and Mio Danilovic, who are very big hospitality guys. They owned a club called Rockwell. Chris owned a gym called Anatomy, which is the most famous gym down here in Miami now. They were opening a beach club called Joya Beach, and it was about like 2 years out, and it was in a really cool location. And they were like, why don't you come join us on this project? And I took a little time to think about it, because I was like, do I really want to get back into hospitality? And then I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want, because it's not nighttime, so I'm not going to be killing myself doing nights, and it's going to be a really cool platform for me to meet awesome people that will lead to the next venture. And when we started that project, it became the hottest project almost in the world, because, and I don't say that in an arrogant way, I say that because it was COVID and there was nothing going on. The whole world was shut down. Miami was literally the only city in the world that was even allowing like certain things to happen, like outdoor dining, minimal hospitality. And we were an outdoor venue. So we were able to do things on a minimal scale and eventually build. Luckily, the mayor and governor are very, very pro, let's get out of this COVID.
Let's get outside. Yeah,
let's get outside. So, all of a sudden our place boomed and everyone started moving to Miami. It was kind of just like a big snowball effect. And, at that time I was like, okay, real estate's always been very interesting to me. I had my license like 11 years ago that never amounted to nothing. I was just young and fully in the nightlife. I didn't have, the discipline to do, another major career and take it seriously. So yeah, I got my license and I was like, okay, like I just want to learn more about real estate. I know a lot of people, my friends own a lot of amazing houses. Why should I not be the one, selling and buying homes for my friends, let alone just learning more about real estate for myself in the future. And I got my license, and it kind of, Joya was like the perfect platform for me to meet people. And then I just started, really networking.
The development was called Joy. Was that
Joya Beach. It was a beach club
okay?
on Jungle Island.
Okay.
So it was our operation, our brand. Um, we were managing the property, belonged to Jungle Island. And yeah, I got my license at the same time. So I was kind of juggling two things. I was literally like getting up. I mean, I get up early anyways, but I was getting up in the morning. I was doing real estate for most of the day. Meanwhile, like on my phone all day, like trying to, help manage the restaurant and make sure everything's going smooth. Then we'd have meetings at the restaurant. Then I'd be at the restaurant from like 5 p.m. till, I don't know, 10 p.m., 10:30 on the weekends. I'd come home. I'd work more on the real estate stuff, get up, do it all over again. Then on the weekends, I'd be at Joya from like 12 p.m. till midnight. So I literally like didn't take a day off probably for like 9 months. I literally worked 7 days a week for 9 months.
And
But
long days.
very long days. But like I loved it, and I was like hustling, and I was like finally starting to make money. And I was just like, wow, this is cool. It all kind of started happening, like clicking finally, because of like the couple of years before that were very hard, especially before COVID. I can go into that a little later. And then yeah, I remember I hit my first deal. Was an $18 million deal. And when you see a commission check after that kind of deal, you're right away, I'm like, oh, okay, I really like this. This is what I want. This is what I want to make my career out of. I mean, it's very lucky to hit a deal like that at the beginning. It took me a year having my license,
Yeah.
like 5 months of me taking it seriously. And I found an off-market deal. I met a client through a friend, and that's kind of how it happened. At the same time, we were going through a bad fallout with the island owners of Jungle Island. We ended up leaving the parting ways on the project, and I was it was like I was sad on one point, but on the other, I was super happy because now I was like, okay, great. I can spend all my time on real estate. Like I like fell in love with the business right away. And I was like, this is kind of this is my calling right now. And I got to go full on in the business, and, was able to close a couple more good deals this summer, and had a great year. And then, kind of partnered with Reid, who was my longtime friend for like 12 years.
Yeah. Well, I know Reid talks about when we had you guys on together, how upset he was when you left and you went to
Oh,
LA. He's like, when you went to LA for your business, it was like, this is our city. Like, you can't go. And so
yeah.
now you're back and partnered up and selling real estate together. Um, there's so many things about that story that are awesome, because a few things I hear are, like, in our businesses, one of the most challenging things about real estate, of course, there's the uncertainty, and then there's the ups and downs. And your biggest opportunities were coming at your most challenging times.
Yep.
And you're getting out working like literally 16, 18-hour days
Yep.
for 9 months straight without a day off, with no benefit of hindsight. I mean, we had the benefit of hindsight of knowing about the $18 million deal you did, but you didn't know that was coming. You also, not before you had worked, were working those long days, you had a history of being in tennis, of being in hospitality. You'd worked long days before and had your successes, and then you had a big fall. Yep. Before you came back, and we're still like, all right, this is it. I'm honing in. This is what I'm going to do. So there's, hard work pays off, but it's also like not just hard work. There's smart work, there's strategy, there's knowing what you want. I mean, there's a lot of things to it. So as we go back in this, how did you know? Like, was it just you're in the moment, you've got to do what you've got to do? Or was it, how did you make the calls? How did you make the decisions as you were coming back to Miami and recreating your life?
I mean, when I came back to Miami, it was like I was heartbroken because I put like 7-8 years into this company. We started it in Miami. I was kind of more of a part-time basis, but like I saw the potential of the company, and I was one of the very early guys in the company. The CEO became like a mentor, very, one of my best friends, and I loved learning from him. And I just got to see like such cool stuff, and like my position in the company was super cool. And then like once we got to a certain level, I mean, we had, $8 million investments from Twitter. I mean, Drake was a part of it. I mean, I was sitting in, meetings with Novak Djokovic, with Cardi B, with Migos, with Kevin Hart. So like I had such a really cool role in the company, like running this celebrity brand ambassador program and on the marketing side. So like, I just fell in love with it. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. So actually, when I went to LA, you know, the CEO, I kept being like, hey, I want to come full time. He's like, look, like we need to raise money before, you know, you can really come full time, because I can't pay you what you want to get paid. You know, in hospitality, nightlife, you get paid very well. You know, I was a partner in the hospitality group at the W Hotel. It was almost like a dream position if you're in hospitality. I mean, to be basically like running the nightlife and hospitality in one of the best hotels in South Beach, like it was a really awesome opportunity. You know, I had great partners and I loved the W Hotel, but like I knew right away, I was like, I'm going to move to LA as soon as like, you know, we raised the money, and I basically like told my partners in Miami, hey, I'm leaving. And I went to the CEO. I said, hey, I need that position like ASAP, because I basically just told my partners I'm leaving the company. So I didn't even have like it set in stone. I mean, I knew it was gonna happen, but it was like, all right, cool. I'm basically moving to LA in like 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Like, and people thought I was crazy. Like my friends are like, what are you doing? This is crazy. Like you don't know what's gonna happen. This is a startup company. Like you're risking everything. You know, you're going into a competitive sector. You know, we were doing like headphones and wearable technology, but like I didn't care. Like I knew what we had, and like it was like, I don't know, it was kind of a risk, you know. And then I kind of got to LA and I had this like, oh shit moment. Like right when like I got there, I was like, oh wow, this is a huge city. Like I don't know that many people. Like I felt like a small fish in a big pond versus the other way. So it was a completely different transformation. But come back to what you were saying. So coming back from there, I was in a tough spot. You know, like I didn't have money. I was trying to figure things out. You know, I was getting into credit card debt. I just wasn't smart with my money like the year before. I lost money in crypto. I lost money trading stocks, you know. And so I kind of put myself in a really bad hole. And I was like so money driven that I was like, I need to make money. I need to do deals. I was trying to do a million things at once. I was trying to do so many things that like none of these things were like happening when I thought like, oh, I'm gonna make 100 grand here. I'm gonna make 200. You know, it was just quick money, and I wasn't focused on actually like building something, and none of that worked out. I was dead broke. COVID hit. Joya, we weren't going to launch for like another 4 or 5 months. I had no money like coming in. I remember there was a time where I was literally had a, you know, my payments were, I had to pay like five grand a month in like bills approximately. You know, I owned a house with my business partner. I was trying to sell my equity in the house so I could like pay stuff off. It was like very tough. And but I was still like getting up at 6 a.m. like during lockdown, and I was like, I don't care. I know that like if I stick to the course, I keep journaling, I keep reading, I keep meditating, I keep manifesting and just working hard, that like things will happen. And like, you know, it was very hard at times, and but I kept to it, and I was like, I can't wait to talk about these times like in the
I
future.
love that.
And
Yeah.
like it kept going in my head. I'm like, you know, it's going to inspire other people, because everyone goes through hard times. Not everyone makes it out of it, but you know, it's when you have your back on the wall, like back against the wall, that's when you normally perform, you know, if you don't give up. So you know, those are just little moments in life, and then like you see the breakthroughs and you're like, oh wow, all the last 5 years that like I was doing all this crazy work is finally clicking, you know. And
Yeah.
then it just like starts going, and then you have the momentum and you're like, okay, wow, okay, let's keep it going, and you know, set higher goals, try to be better. And
Well, look, so you go to LA, you get there, you took a huge risk, you're the small fish, and you do all of this and this business fails. But in all of that, you've said, even that risk, even all of that failure has contributed and created where you are now, which, tell me if I'm wrong, is better than you would be had you stayed in that really amazing position that you already had as a partner in the W
yeah,
in hospitality.
yeah, I mean,
You went through a lot of hell, but
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, look, you never know. Like I was always hungry to get better. Like I got to, like when I was 20, when I was like 31, 32, like I really got into more like self-development. I discovered Tony Robbins. I started reading that, and instantly like, I started reading the books, doing the exercises, really like kind of mapping out what I want in my life, other than just like an idea, in your head. Oh, I want to do this. Cool. Okay. Well, how does it feel? How does it smell? How does it look like? What's the roadmap? What's the end game? How are you going to get there? Like, how are you going to do those things? So I started really mapping out what I wanted and like feeling it. And then, eventually it happened. But like, if you look back and, the failure, and you're like, hey, was it worth it? And I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. It was like, it was an amazing experience, even though, I didn't get out of it what I necessarily wanted, like financially and successfully. But like, I met so many awesome people. I got to see so many cool things. I got to travel a lot. Like I did events like in Europe at, the Cannes Lions Awards, like among like all the biggest tech companies. Like it was super cool, so I got a lot of experience. I met a lot of people, and that helped me for my future business, for, the next hospitality venture with Joya, and then, with real estate now.
That's so awesome. And there's a few things you said too. You talked about focusing, keeping your focus on what you want, and then habits. Like no matter what happened, you kept getting up at 6 a.m. and you said journal, read, meditate, journal, read, meditate.
Yeah. I mean, when I started reading different books and like, just reading stuff, I was like, okay, I know what I want. There is a better life. There are steps to getting to that better life. There's a reason why all these successful people do very similar things. Like if you're not journaling and you're not tracking your day and like knowing where you're going, like you're lost. Like if I don't journal every day, I forget everything, like every little
Wow.
detail, like,
Now, what do you mean by journal, by the way?
I mean, like this, sorry, you can't really see it, can you? Like this
But are you
journal.
like writing your thoughts, or are you like scheduling your day when you journal, or a little bit of both?
So the journal I have now, I really like it a lot. Because in the morning, the first three things are, what am I grateful for? So I do my gratitude. Then it's, what is my main goal? That can be over the next week, it can be over the next month, it can be like, hey, I want to close a deal by the following month, or like, hey, today, like, I don't know, I want to call everyone in my family and tell them I love them. And then it's like, okay, what are your 3 daily targets? So it could be like, hey, I want to, talk to 20 new people and potentially get a lead, or, well, I want to take care of my, health insurance today. It can be whatever. And then like, what am I looking forward to at the end of the day? Or like, how do I want to look back at the day? And then I have my schedule and, all the little things I need to do, like call mom, send her flowers, go, call this client, like little detail stuff. And then like at the end of the day, I basically have to write like, what were the 3 things I learned from the day? And then it's, what were my 3 biggest wins of the day? And then what am I grateful for? And I basically been doing that every day for like 6-7 years. And like sometimes, of course, sometimes I go out weekend, I come back and I don't do it necessarily, but like 98% of the time I'm doing it. And when I'm doing it, I'm way more focused, I mean, it could be little stuff like, hey, I need to read 30 minutes today, and then like I forget about it, but I look at my journal, it's like, shit, okay, I gotta read 30 minutes today just to check it off. And when you check things off, it's like, it's gratifying. You're like, okay, I did what I said I was gonna do, which is very like good for the mind and body,
Yeah, so you get it's like you recognize like there's a quote that talks about what we do. Oh, what is it? But people talk about the human nature doesn't realize in the moment we think, in the moment or it's what we do in the moment, how it adds over time. We don't recognize, like everybody thinks they can do it in a year more than they can, but they underestimate what they can do in 5 to 10.
Compounding,
Yeah.
right? They say like, if you focus on getting
Compound
like
effect.
1% better every day, like in
It's
5
a
years,
lot,
it's going to be
a lot.
absolutely tremendous. And it shows. I mean, you can tell who works on themselves and who doesn't, who's trying to be better, who's not. So
Well,
yeah,
then there's growing and saying you're growing. There's wanting and doing. There's, some people don't recognize they're in the state of want as opposed to the state of like actually action and achieving.
Yep.
And in your action achieving, it's in the morning, gratitude, my big goal for the day, and then my 3 targets. And then you also write down the little okay, yeah, I got to get this checklist done. At the end of the day, you say, what did I learn today? You remember, because we learn things to forget. We learn them, which is
Of
not good.
course.
What were my 3 wins and what am I grateful for?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the Marko Gojanovic daily habits, the Marko Gojanovic journal right there. I
Yep.
love it.
And I do that, I do that at night and then before I go to bed, when I'm doing all that, I'm writing everything I need to do the next day because, if I don't do that, I wake up in the morning and you forget like,
God, so true.
I might be like brushing my teeth and thinking of something and I'm like, oh shit, I got to write that down, So I just like even when we were starting this podcast, like I thought of something, I had to write it down, so like,
I have a notepad. The notepad and the phone are just like,
yeah. Yeah, but
yeah.
my morning, I get up fairly early. I get up at like 6:30. I'll go in, I'll drink lemon water, I'll go take a shower, end it with like 30 seconds of cold shower. Then I'll go meditate for 10 minutes. Then I make my coffee and get my journal out while my coffee's, brewing. I start writing in my journal, I have my coffee, I finish my journal, I go and get ready, I go to the gym. And then I come home, I shower, and I'm normally, working by 9, let's say 9ish.
That's all. But you take care of yourself, so you're set for the day. You get
Yeah.
your
I mean,
whole.
I love training. I love working out. There's nothing better than that. My gym has a cold plunge and steam rooms. So like I do that every day religiously. It like makes me feel next level. Like I can't go without my cold plunge in the morning.
What's the temperature of the cold plunge?
This one's like low 40s, I think. Like, but
Pretty
like
cold for
there's
water.
ones that are like in the mid 30s, high 30s that they're next level cold. So I stay in it like 2 minutes. It's good, but like it's hard. You have to get used to it.
You have to like I've done the cryotherapy where you get in and you have to just like I have to keep talking to
Yeah.
somebody, and just remind myself to breathe. It gets hard to breathe. These things are nuts. All right, so as you came into real estate, you knew people, but a lot of people know people. They don't always make the deals.
Yeah.
How did you do it? How did you go from knowing people, being a hospitality guy, to being the real estate broker and
Yeah,
being
or
known,
like
seen,
everyone,
and
like you get
respected?
your real estate license, everyone looks at you like, oh yeah, okay, like you're a hospitality guy, you got your real estate license like everyone else and their mother, especially during COVID. So they kind of like laugh at you, but if you have a good relationship, they'll give you a chance. So my thing was just like showing, I was working with a guy at the time that was very good with finding like off-market deals. He was like a deal maker. He was always like trying to see like what homes would sell, that weren't on the market. And he would find these crazy deals and he'd be like, hey, pitch them to all your like most wealthiest clients. So like, there, for example, like when I was at Joya, there was this guy, very well-known hedge fund guy, worked, $5-6 billion. I've known him, for a while, had dinners with him more on the hospitality side. And he was walking in and I was like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? He's like, oh, everything's great. I'm planning on, making my move to Miami. And I go, oh, you're moving here. I said, oh, I got, I have my license too. Like, and I never say, hey, can I show you properties? I say, hey, can I show you, can I send you off market stuff? Because I know they're already working with agents. There's, they know, when someone like that is coming in town, they're working with the top agents in Miami. And like, I know they're not going to just say, sure, kid, show me around. They're going to be like,
And sure, kid, you can be my realtor while I
yeah, of
spend a few
course. So
million.
all
While
I
I
ask,
put a
I
few
always
million
ask,
dollars into my
hey,
portfolio. Yeah.
yeah, my thing was always like, hey, can I show you off market deals? And everyone's like, and he was like, oh, I've seen them all. And so I pull out my phone, I go, oh, have you seen this one? And he's like, oh no, I haven't actually. Can you send me that? And then after dinner, he came up to me and goes, hey, take my number, like send me that. So like right away, I just got in with a guy because I played it, in a certain strategic way. But like and then I was like, okay, all I'm going to focus on is off market houses and pitch them to everyone and engage conversations and see what people want and see what they don't. And then, I'd obviously have my list. I'd be like, okay, this guy wants this guy's interested in this kind of land. So I started building a database of like everything people wanted. And then I would try to go find that. And then, my first deal was an off market deal. And it just so happened that like one billionaire that I knew, I asked him, I said, hey, I know an off-market house like right on your street. Do you have any friends that would like to live by you? And he goes, yeah, actually I do. And he connected me with the guy. The guy was in town for one more day before he flew to Boston. We showed them the property. Within 3 days, we had it in contract at like 18.25. And, we closed the deal like a month and a half later. And
Marco, if we were in person, I'd be like, just high five me, because what you're talking about is exactly what I'm talking about. It's exactly what I'm talking about. This is like everybody who's, whether, even if you're seasoned, but especially like if you're at that point where you're like, it's time to get to the next level, what Marco just shared, replay that, because this business is not about getting people's permission to be a badass. It's not about getting your success is not up to someone else's approval. That's not what this is about. We're brokers.
Yeah.
We're not job interviewing. We're not signing up and getting permission. Know your market.
Yeah.
Know what people want. Track what people want. Connect the dots. Have the conversations that you show up not as the person trying to get permission to be a taxi driver or an Uber driver for more money, but someone who's got something to offer, a value for the time you've invested in everything you've done, because you're a badass broker.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
look, it was really figuring out like what people wanted and trying to show them the best thing, because what I realized was every smart, wealthy person or anyone buying real estate is most likely on Zillow, on Redfin. They are speaking to realtors. They know everything that's on the market. So like, how do you add value? How do you add value to them? And I was like, okay, I'm going to show them stuff that they can't see on the market, because everyone, especially COVID, the inventory was so low that like, it was a frenzy to find properties. And when you can show them stuff that they don't see anywhere else, all of a sudden you have them hooked. Like I converted 2 huge deals. One was a $9 million deal. One was a $15 million deal. Both of the guys had real estate agents, both very successful guys. I became kind of friends with them. And I was just like, hey, let me show you off market stuff. We became cool. And I was relentless. I was every day. Hey, you want to see this property? Hey, you want to see this? Hey, check this out. What do you think? And after like 2-3 weeks, they were calling me about listed properties. And they're like, hey, can we go check this out? So like, I didn't even pick out the property for clients. I closed $25 million worth of worth of clients, 2 deals for $25 million, just because I was relentless for like a couple of weeks. And they were like, hey, let's go see this house. And we ended up buying the house that I didn't even find. And they were working with other realtors, but they were like, hey, I like you. You hustle. So like,
exactly. That's it.
Like
That's
putting in
it.
the effort, being relentless, and like following up and like showing them cool stuff. And like, people want the comfort, and they were working with top, like other big brokers. And they're like, hey, you're putting in a lot more effort than like someone else's. They seem like too busy. And I'm like, well, I'm not.
And that's the time you say you're not, when
But
you come in and say, I'm not
like
busy,
that.
I'll do, no, that doesn't communicate winner.
No,
People,
and I'm never too
people
busy.
know
Like
value.
I see a deal, like I get hit up with a client. It can be a $3 million deal, $4 million deal. My eyes light up, and I'm like, oh yes, this is the part I love.
This is fun.
This is fun. I was like, all right, it's like game time. Like when you're walking into the ring, and then like you finally get to show them the property. You're like, oh yeah, like
You just
I
wait.
got my foot in there. I got my foot in there. Now we just got to work it, and then try to add as much value to the customer as possible, and build that relationship, which like
Right. Well,
which was my favorite part of hospitality, was building the relationship, introducing them to someone else, adding value. These guys come in, they want to buy homes, they want connections, they don't know Miami, and all of a sudden, cool, you want the best restaurants, you want to get into the best.
Oh, that's like, and now you're done. Like that's it. Next level.
You need a membership here. Cool, I got you. Even though it's impossible to get a membership, like I got you. So it's like you provide a whole level of service that you're helping people. Then you connect them. Hey, my other friend here, you should meet him. He just sold his company. You guys will get along. So like, I know how to match people. So we're like, it basically makes their experience better. Like, cool, you got a boat. Let's do a really cool boat ride. I mean, last night I hosted at my friend's penthouse. I hosted 20 to 25 people. I put together, I kind of curated it all. And I brought in like awesome people that we're working with, badasses that just moved here, and I put them all in a room, and it's just like fun, like networking, like chef in a sick penthouse, and everyone's like, wow, that was really cool. Well, like, look, you just engaged more with your like potential buyers, people that you're working with, successful friends, and like potential new business, and you just put them in a room. Cool. Meet other people that you guys might invest in each other's companies. You might do different stuff, but like we're the ones organizing it and we're curating it. So you're going to remember us for that.
Exactly. And I listen to Elon Musk occasionally, and he said this thing recently, like a month ago, I heard him say it, and he said, when people look at, like, they come into the industry or come into business, and they go, okay, what can I get? And he's like, no. When you look at the pie and go and you make it bigger, you create your own pie, you make it so big, there's so much coming back. Think about the value when you've met these people. You weren't trying to get something out of them and get permission to give them houses. You listened to what they wanted. You put in front of them what they asked for. And then without them asking, like, nobody ever asked for an iPhone. Without them asking, you gave them even more value. And I bet they're going to end up making more from their relationship with you than you might have, even if you look at just one-on-one. From meeting Marko Gojanovic, look at what your clients have gained.
Yeah.
They would have paid more than you gained financially from that relationship. Now, that doesn't mean you should go, but it's not about taking more. It's like, that's how big your pie is. That's how big your world is.
I'll tell you a really cool thing that, like, one of the coolest things I've heard from a client. He's become a really good friend, young, successful guy. It's actually a few of them, which is really cool. Is that, like, we put so much time, Reid and I, into building these relationships, but like, we obviously do it with people we really like. And it's like, okay, these guys are going to be my friends outside of just whatever we do in real estate. There's a whole long-term relationship that's going to happen, in the near future. Like, our kids will probably hang out, like, we'll be friends. And, we've done a lot of cool stuff, boat stuff, hangout, dinners. And then they were all like, how can we help you? They're like, what can we do to help, like, your business? Like, is it like, do you want just more introductions? Do you want, like, and I'm always like, hey, I just want to learn, like, business from you. I want to learn cool stuff. I want to learn, like, I want to talk about the next phase of my life where I'm, investing in companies. Can you teach me that? Of course. Yeah. Send me referrals. Let's do real estate, but that's like a given, that's going to happen organically, so that's the kind of relationship we like to have with our clients. It's kind of like, how can we help you? Like, what do you need in Miami? Do you need to find a great girl to a girlfriend? We got plenty of cool girlfriends. Do you need restaurants? Do you want, like, good lifestyle? Like, do you want to go to certain gyms? Like, what do you want? And then we kind of help curate that lifestyle and introduce good people and just make it add something more than just that real estate sale,
Yeah. So there's having the access for people they can't find anywhere but with you. And then there's the hospitality component of that. There's a level of hospitality. And you said in our last interview, so when I was in this is with you and Reid, but when I was in hospitality, is what you said, every moment was spent on other people. Now, what's interesting is you ask a real estate agent, they think that every moment of their life is spent on other people. So you take someone who says, no, in hospitality, every moment was on other people. Now you break into real estate, the level at which you invest in other people and understand how to cater, how to entertain, how to white glove service, how to really, really give people what they're looking for and give them experiences. Next level is what you bring them.
Yeah.
And then there's the component of what I kind of know a little more about that. And then there's the third part about, as you break into the market, what you bring as the broker, data, information, insight, expertise. But let's talk about hospitality for a second. I find that the guys have just, and by guys, I mean guys and girls who have been in it and done it, like, they just have this knack that a lot of people don't have if they haven't really been in hospitality. Like, I mean, a partner with the W, entertaining people constantly. Are there any like three things or one thing that just make it because it seems like it's like second nature to you now,
Yeah. I mean, hospitality, it's hospitality. Like, you have to be hospitable. Like, to me, if I go to a restaurant and someone's rude, I'm like, do you realize what industry you're in? You're in the industry of serving others. You can be a nightclub owner. You're serving others. Like, you're going around, you're making sure people have their drinks. Like, when I was doing nightlife, like, I was at a hawk at my table. I could tell who had this much left. Even last night, I was, I scanned the room. Oh, my buddy's wine is run out. I run over. Hey, can I fill you up? Like, cause that's just like my hospitality side. So like I can just read people well, like when you're in a nightclub at a table and you're hosting people, I notice what everyone needs, what they don't. Or if I'm at a restaurant, I know if someone's hungry, they didn't get enough food, what they're missing. Are they trying to call the waiter? So like, I'm always like paying attention to what people want, how they react to certain things. Are they bored? If someone's bored, I'll go up to them and try to like cheer them up, talk them, introduce them to someone else. All of a sudden, like, someone that's shy, like having the worst time of their life, now they're like, oh, this is awesome. And my favorite part about hospitality was when people would leave your party, your nightclub, and the next day they're like, dude, you just made the most epic weekend for me in Miami. Like, because all of a sudden they're going through the back of the club. You walk them out to their Uber, you bring them into the DJ booth. They meet Tiesto or they meet this DJ and they're like, oh my God, like you just introduced me to like, this basketball player or this person or this CEO. So it's always just like enhancing people's experience. And I think real estate is like that too, and there's only really a handful of people. I think there's some real estate agents I really look up to in Miami, and they do such a really cool job of like curating things or brokers opens or doing cool creative stuff. And I think that's what, like, from hospitality I've learned going into real estate is really, how to curate cool experiences and make people feel really like, make the experience of buying and selling real estate more than just buying and selling real estate.
Because it is about their home anyway.
Yeah.
But it's access, hospitality, and then just listening.
Yeah.
Part of that is listening. And going back to being a real estate agent, because there's this big challenge of there's a lot of people in hospitality with licenses. And so breaking through almost that stereotype when you go into that. But when you look at, as the real estate expert, I think the most valuable thing you gave people was access to property, and just getting that access and studying the market or finding those properties gave you the market knowledge, because the process of doing that does that. But what would you say your other one or two most valuable, like real estate expertise was or is to your clients?
I mean, you were just talking about really knowing your market. Like, I know comps, like I study comps all the time. Like every day I'm on the MLS and I literally, like, because I wanted to learn the high-end market, like every day I'm just like 10 million plus, everything that's listed and closed, and it doesn't change daily, but I go over it so I can memorize the addresses, the prices, the square footage. So when someone like is like, oh yeah, like this, I'm like, oh, have you seen, 5780 North Bay Road? Or cool, like you should check out 28 West Toledo. So there's like, I know waterfront properties. Like Reid knows condos very well. Like he knows the addresses on everything. Cause I'm like, still like, okay, Bath Club is, and he's just like, and like, I'm like that with like waterfront properties, because that's what I was like, I want to sell the most expensive properties in Miami. So I want to learn those properties. So even before I was selling them, like, one of my mentors, this kid Alejandro, who's with Sotheby's, is now, with the Jills. He was like literally educating me on everything all the time, like driving me around. And like, I wanted to learn. I'm like, hey, can we go on a tour again? Like, show me the islands. Like, what's this? And then I would also like go on the MLS and I would write down, okay, Star Island, who's the owner? What's the square footage? How big is the house? How much water frontage? When was it last sold? For how much? How many homes are on the island? And like what it sold for last. So I would actually write it down, because like just looking at it, you're gonna forget it. So like writing it down, and I would do that. Star Island. Okay, next, Hibiscus Island, Palm Island, Venetian Islands, North Bay Road. So that's kind of like how I started really learning stuff. And when you can spit things out, because your clients are smart as shit. So they normally know more than you. So like, I mean, I talk to some clients and like, you have to be super sharp because they know everything that almost, and it's like, you have to be like, you have to get them with like certain little info, and like, you have to provide people info where they're like impressed. They're like, wow, this guy knows his stuff,
Yeah, right. And it's that little thing that because it's all about the best, be the best.
Yeah,
being the best in the world is way underrated.
Yeah.
Marko, let's go back and look at, you've gotten a lot done as an agent in the last 2.5 years. Again, I'm going to remind everybody, $250 million and counting in a year. if you could go back and look at one of your greatest lessons you've learned in this business, because we still all make mistakes. It wasn't all luck. What's something that comes to mind for you? What's like take us there? What's your story or a story?
I would say some of the things I learned the most were, really following up with clients all the time. You might think a client is maybe wasting your time because they're looking at so many things and they've changed their mind, but you never know, because I've lost deals to, clients you cool off for a second, which normally I'm not like that. Normally I'm pretty relentless. And like, even my partner Reid is like, bro, I don't know how you do it. I was like, I'll text the guy every week until he like really responds. Like, I don't care. Like, he wants to look at properties, so I'm sending him properties, and I'll be like, you want to see it? No response. Next week, another property. Do you want to see this one? Eventually they'll respond and things get done. But I'll tell you a good one, which I learned a good lesson was, I had this client I got introduced to. He just sold a big piece of his company, and I was in touch with one of his business partners, and his business partner was kind of like, hey, I'm kind of handling the real estate stuff for my friend. We're going to be looking up to like $40 million, which would have been the biggest deal of my life so far. And so I start sending him a lot of stuff. He goes, FYI, we're also working with other agents, but show us like what you have off market, which is like, okay, cool, fair. So I sent him one property, like it gets listed a couple weeks later. He told me he's going to see it with another agent. And I'm like, no. I go, at least give me the honors of showing you that house, since I showed it to you a month ago before this agent ever showed it to you, So they're like, fine. So I tell the brokers, hey, I'm bringing this client, The other agent like approved it was okay. They made it okay. So I bring I'm supposed to meet the client and his friend the next day at this house listed for, 40 something million dollars. And I show up there, and the client makes me sign an NDA as well, because they want to keep his name disclosed, all that stuff. He gets to the house, the client's not there. He goes, oh, the client had a late night last night. He goes,
This is your client, or this is?
Yeah, this is my client,
yeah.
but this is his business partner that showed up. And he said, the client, he goes, he's dead. He goes, he partied all night. He was at Space. He goes, I'm going to take some videos for him. He goes, but, we showed the house. He goes, this could be perfect for him. He goes, I think this could be very good for him. And I showed him other stuff, and they're also like, do we rent? Do we buy? So they didn't really know. And so whatever, we showed the house. After they saw a few things, with other people as well, they kind of like, things slow down, and they're like, hey, I think we're going to rent for a little while just to really feel where he wants to live and all that. It's Art Basel. He thinks he wants to rent something. I showed him rentals. Nothing came of it. And I was kind of like, whatever. I kind of just forgot about him. It wasn't like a priority to me, because he was all over the place.
And not even loyal, and
Yeah, not even loyal,
Doesn't even seem like he's
not a lot of people are, but that's okay. But I found out a month later that he bought the house that I showed his business partner. And
before it ever came on the market, by the way.
Oh, it came on I showed
it. You got it in front of him
when it came on the market, but
yeah,
but I showed it to him a couple months before it came on the market. And the guy called me, his business partner, and was just like, hey, by the way, XYZ bought this house. And I was like, with what agent? And they told me, and they're like, yeah, because the guy that he plays tennis with recommended her, and he listens to him and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, but that's not fair. Like, I brought you to the house. He goes, yeah, I told him, but he didn't care. And, I made a big fuss about it. Like, I called the other agents, and they couldn't talk much because they were under NDA and they didn't want to ruin the deal. And, I called my brokerage. I made a big fuss. But at the end of the day, they were like, look, this is a tough situation. And then like after a day, I kind of cooled off, and I was just like, I have no one to blame but myself. I go, I didn't register the client properly. I never met the client in person. I go, I should have. The guy was a tennis player too. Like, I never played tennis with him. I never actually met him in person. I met his friend, his business partner. I went to dinner with him. I did all this stuff, but I never built a relationship with the client. So he owed me nothing, and I didn't register him properly. So I go, I learned a big lesson there, because I just basically lost $1 million commission.
Yeah.
And, those are life-changing deals. So like I learned a good lesson there. One was make sure you're properly protected with the clients you're showing. Make sure the properties that you show people are protected on. And to follow up with the client and make sure you get in front of their face and just be relentless and never let a deal slide like that. So that was a good lesson.
It's a good, like, like, even as relentless as you are, it happens, but it was a great reminder.
Yeah.
A great, like, wow, like that, like, that hurts.
Yeah, but you know what? Like I've learned you have to let go of stuff. So like lesson learned. Some people would be like, "Oh my God, I love," and like literally that second, I was like, "Okay, well that's done. Next deal. I learned my lesson. Like let's go after it. Shit happens. I lost $1 million deal. Cool. I can talk about it later." And here I am.
You can't should anything,
Podcast.
right? You can't change it. You can't should have done
You can't
anything.
change
You
it.
can
You
only,
can't. And what? Like you're gonna complain about it to yourself and other people and look like a sore loser forever. Like
right.
great, that agent, good for her. You know,
And
good for.
what did you put out to the universe with that? More of that,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm
which is
pretty
not
good
what
at
you
it.
want.
Like you got to let go of stuff. You know, like the Buddhist way. Just let go.
Or
You
the
know.
great tennis players, being a tennis player. Like,
Yeah.
I
Too bad
try to
when I
play
was a
tennis
tennis
on
player, I
occasion.
couldn't let things go other than my racket flying out of my hand but a few times. Um,
Right. Oh, wow. Wow. But what a great, like, what a great lesson to learn it early on is just to be on that. Think about the people, think about the perspective, think about the relationship,
yeah,
like, be on it.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do the final three again because it changes sometimes, even though we've had you and Reid on together a few weeks ago.
Okay.
But number one, especially in context of our conversations today, what has been your biggest resource in this success as
I
an
mean, my
agent?
biggest resource is my network. You know, I constantly work on my network. I constantly want to grow relationships. I put in a lot of effort of, you know, spending time with clients, doing cool things with clients, doing cool experiences, going to basketball games, going to football games, you know, going to dinners with my wife and their girlfriends or wives, you know, going on boats, going on cool trips. You know, I've been able to go on some really cool trips and my clients have treated me to some really cool stuff. So, you know, I put in that effort. You know, beginning of each week, I look, you know, in my weekly calendar, I said, what am I doing this week to build relationships with my clients? Who are the clients I want to take to lunch? Who are the clients I want to meet to dinner? If I'm not having like 2 lunches a week with clients, I know I'm failing at my job or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So it's always looking at, you know, that part and that client network. That's my biggest asset. And it's just about, you know, cultivating it, growing it, nourishing it, building those relationships and adding value to my clientele.
Is there a book that might especially relate to our conversation today? Or tell us the book that we talked about the book last time, or what's the book today?
Um, I think I said last time Think and Grow Rich, maybe. Like, I
I
mean,
think you did.
that's like
I
the
think you
business,
did.
that's like the business Bible. And like I listen
Yeah.
to it and you know, I like that book. I mean, I was reading different real estate books. I mean, I read 2 of Ryan Serhant's books, you know, and like because he's just very fast paced. He's in the gym in
Yeah.
the morning, he's hustling, he's a big personality. And he came from being like a model. He was a broke model in New York, had no money. So like similar kind of
Similar
background, you know,
story.
like trying new stuff, like was happy getting like a $3,000 rental his first like deal and like just hustled his way and outworked everyone. And now he's, you know, one of the biggest in the world and, you know, let alone a big TV personality and has a whole media production and he's fun.
Yeah, there's a common theme here. It's habits and showing up for people, habits and showing up, habits and showing up.
Yeah.
But like, is that when you read stuff, is that the stuff that when you read things, it sounds like the biggest takeaway and reminder in your life is habits and showing up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like reading self-development books. Like I'm all about that. So they all kind of have the same similar theme, just, you know, expressed differently or told a different way. So I love reading self-development books. You know, those are great. Or, you know, self-development and business books. You know, stuff like 5 a.m. Club, The Monk Who Sold My Ferrari, Now I'm reading The Millionaire Next Door.
I don't know the monk who sold my Ferrari. I know on the other one.
Monk who sold his Ferrari. It's with Robin Sharma as well. It's absolutely awesome. It's about, a hotshot lawyer that was all into sex, drugs, rock and roll, being the baddest guy, big ego. He suffered, and then he suffered a heart attack actually in court, went over, to the Far East and, became basically a monk. And then he kind of comes back and tells this, story to this other new hotshot lawyer, how like what the life he used to live is not important. What is important are, the certain core values, giving back, working on yourself, your family, your friends, being at peace, like, living a simple, nice life. That's basically the gist of it.
All right. And the last question. If there's anything you want us to remember from this conversation and time with you today, what is it?
I would say, you hear it all the time. You can achieve anything, believe, but like you really can. It's like, there's a systematic approach, like that every successful person does, and a lot of times it's manifesting, really believing and picturing that image. Like I used to sit on my balcony and look at all the buildings and the islands and just picture myself selling these things, being in them. And like, it happens. I'm filming in these properties, I'm selling them. So like a lot of these things, if you really, really believe that what you want, just like really feel it, put yourself in those shoes, work hard. Everyone's going to be in tough times, whether you're broke, successful, things fail, but things get better over time, and everything, you look back and you're kind of happy those things happen. Like you like your failures, you like those hard times.
Well, it's what you did. Look at what you did in those hard times without any benefit of the hindsight you have now.
Yeah. It's funny. Sometimes I have to be like, I'm grateful for my accomplishments, because now I'm like, shit, I haven't done anything this year. Like we've closed a couple of small deals. Like I haven't closed that huge transaction. I have to hit my numbers. My target for this year is over double what it was last year. Am I going to hit those targets? So like, it's like, you kind of forget what you did, but it's nice to be like, wow, I've done a lot of cool stuff, but you got to always set the bar higher, and improve. I think that's our crazy mentality.
Right. Well, there's also this kind of interesting reality of like, things don't stay the same. They tend to get worse or better, and better seems like the better option. Yep. And it's often the easier option if you think about it.
Yep, for sure. And then just one more thing, the project behind, if you want to learn more about it, hit me up. It's called 29 Indian Creek. It's 11 luxury residences in the Faina district. Super cool project. Great developer, Jason Halper and JMH Development. So hit me up for more info.
Nice. So are they in pre-sale? Is it built? Like give us a little more.
Pre-built. It's going, there's going to be a demolition. There's an older building that's there, right now on the property. It's going to be demoed next month. Then we're going to be breaking ground in end of April, May. It's going to be a 2-year project. There's going to be a penthouse, 8 residences, 2 townhomes that are historic, that are being fully restored. Really cool project, in an area.
Is there going to be like a demo part, or not a demo, like a demolition party or anything fun like that?
Yeah, we're gonna do some cool stuff. So
awesome.
We'll do a lot of marketing and have a cool little brokers invite for the demo part, for the demo and breaking ground. So yeah, it'll be fun. It's an exciting project.
And do you have the price points yet?
Yeah, townhomes are around $2.5 million. The residences, the 8 residences, the flow-through residences are starting at 3.5, and the penthouse is 10.2.
Nice. Marko, thank you. It's awesome having you on and awesome seeing you.
Thank you for having me again. Great seeing you.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Powered by Breakthrough Luxury Coaching, this podcast was created for real estate agents across the world, coming together, sharing ideas that take their businesses to the next level. Breakthrough Luxury Coaching and membership provide luxury real estate agents tools and resources that win more business, increase volume and sales prices, and create results. To learn more, go to getstarted.breakthroughluxury.com.